Del Rio, Texas. Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive recorded live Saturday, 16 February 2013, episode 55, Going, Gone. Well, welcome once again to another exciting episode of Two Guys Who Dive, and as you noticed, it's now one guy who dives. I don't know, at the rate that ScubaBob is bugging out on me for different reasons, might have to change the show or find a different co-host. No, I'm kidding. At least I hope I'm kidding. ScubaBob is off taking care of some things. He's getting ready for a big, pretty big spiritual event in his life. So definitely encourage that and support him in that. So it's going to be exciting to see how this is going to work out for him. And please forgive me as I make some adjustments to the screen here. Interesting challenges. We've yet another update to the software that we're using here at the studio for the podcast. So every time there's an update, there's all sorts of interesting little changes, tweaks that I have to go through that get a little frustrating because sometimes they're good improvements, and sometimes they solve issues that I'm not having, but issues that other people who use the software run into. It helps them out. Of course, unfortunately, you got to be careful with those kinds of things because sometimes it comes down to a case. There it goes. Get some focus. Oh, I'm getting blurry. Sometimes it comes into a case of where it fixes somebody else's problem and then breaks another one, which of course is a no-no in the business that I do, a large part of the work that I do, which is Lean Six Sigma. And you don't go fixing a process without considering the cascade of unintended consequences. Oh, great. It's kind of a situation of, the operation was a success, however, the patient died. Yeah, you don't want to create those kind of situations. So it's a growing process as they try to perfect the software. Still, they think they've got the Skype issue fixed, but I've so far tested it, and it's not working as advertised. I would love to be able to have people be able to Skype into the show and have them shown on the screen and see what's going on, etc., like a lot of other podcasts do. And of course, it's a challenge with the hardware that I have right now because I'm literally running on the ragged edge of the capabilities of the hardware. I've just got an AMD 4-core processor, but the folks that develop the XSplit software really say that if you want to take advantage of the kind of features the way that I've told them I'm using it, they said you are lucky to get the kind of podcast you're getting because the processor I should be using is a Intel i7, which of course I'm way below that level. So you'll see some performance challenges, stuttering, and some things like that. But I try to tweak the system as much as possible and run. This is like going into the geek woods for some of you folks. I try to tweak out some of the services and background programs that run on this machine so I can take full advantage of the different features. Because I'll be honest with you, I've looked at quite a few different bits of software that are out there that support video podcasting, and none of them brings to the table all the features that are available in this software. it actually supports green screen and things like that. For those who don't know what that is, it's where you see on typical movies or even in like news broadcasts, you see that the anchors are sitting there, and then behind them are images of things going on, whether it's just a background for a show or it's video of whatever their newscast is about is going on behind them. So this software actually supports that, but it takes a pretty meaty processor in order to do those kinds of things. It would be kind of cool to have full motion backgrounds going on in here, but I'll settle for this if I just get this to get my machine to hold on with 720p HD output. So anyway, working through a few challenges here and there. Anytime that we do the podcast, we really do encourage folks to catch it live if possible and jump into our chat room. If you go to, if you're watching this via YouTube, which means you're watching it after the podcast, catch us live every Saturday at 8 o'clock. And you can reach us at the ustream.tv website. Just look for Two Guys Who Dive. And you'll see the live podcast, and there's a chat room that's attached to the show. So you can go into that. I always have that up and running. And every so often we do have some of our viewers jump in the chat room. And we really enjoy having them in there because, while ScubaBob and I have a lot of fun chatting back and forth, and as if you've watched the show at all, typically we typically go beyond the hour, and we can because we're not affiliated with any sort of a network. Although there are some networks that we're kind of looking at trying to pitch our show to be linked to, which would be kind of cool. But with that means it means that we're not stuck conforming to a particular time. Although, we realistically want to try to keep it to an hour, but we have gone 2 hours. We have gone even 3 hours. Sadly, my poor software had a huge issue trying to run a 3-hour show. Let me brighten up the pot. There we go. A little brighter. Had an issue trying to run a full 3 hours. And I had seen in the forums a number of issues here and there with folks who tried to run podcasts that were that long. Literally, we got to the end of the show and everything kind of moved okay. And then I clicked on the very last video. Oh, we got a special appearance by our middle dog, Ronan, here. Ah, yes. And there's Ronan. Yes, you got to make your obligatory say hello. Yes. Yeah, he's been doing really well. For those who've been following, he's had some issues with his back, and he's been doing really, really well. It's always a challenge with dachshunds because their backs are so long and susceptible to injury. Anyway, where was I? Lost my train of thought before it even left the station. Yeah, I was talking about the quality of the podcast. So, hopefully, as the developers go along, they can make some of these improvements that deal with the issues like with Skype, etc., that allow us to bring people in. Because right now, the quality of the video coming in is so choppy, it's horrible. I actually had better luck bringing in a Skype call and doing what they call a screen region, where I capture a part of the screen. I'm running 2 screens on this computer, and letting that video. Of course, all my audio comes through our soundboard here, so that's never an issue. But the video, the 2 options that you have are capturing, it streams it from a screen region that it captures on your other screen, or the software allows you to actually use Skype as a video and audio source. It treats it like another camera, which is cool in theory, but the performance was horrible. I tried Skyping in through my phone and from my laptop computer, and it was just horrible. Whereas when I did it as a screen region, it actually looked pretty good. So I was pretty happy with that. So we'll see what happens. Just got our producer, my wife Tara, a new laptop. Her laptop was working, but no, everything's running Windows 8. But she, the kind of things that she uses it for, it was kind of starting to tell its age. It was over 4 years old. Didn't even have a built-in webcam, so that kind of gives you an idea how old it was. So we just got it set up today, so she's been using it. So hopefully she's enjoying her new toy. That'll improve her life back there in her studio, which is her scrapbooking and other craft room, or her lair, as she likes to call it. And she just has a great time with that, and I fully support that. So it really looks good. It's kind of like a showroom in our house. We bring other people in here who are into scrapbooking. They were wanting ideas how to set up a nice, organized, orderly, and yet attractive craft room like that. We kind of like to show it off because I got to use some of my Lean Six Sigma tools in approaching how we were going to do that, and it's very functional, very attractive, and she has a great time with it. So again, we encourage you to join us, especially in these situations where I don't have a co-host. Of course, I can talk to a wall. That's never an issue with me. But it would be cool to have people to interact with. It's a lot of fun. They ask us questions, or they comment on the show, or just have general comments and kind of spur along, especially when we go down our little rabbit trails, which we often do. You may be wondering, okay, well, this is called Two Guys Who Dive, so why isn't it all about diving? Well, that's specifically why I chose to call it Two Guys Who Dive, because it just means that we are divers, and so that's going to be largely what we talk about, but it's not the exclusive thing that we'll talk about. Because Robert and I both like tech stuff. We're into tech stuff. We kind of have a friendly rivalry of Apple versus PC going on, and we talk about a number of things, as well as tech that involves scuba diving, and we kind of branch off into other things because we have a varied interest, and for the most part, we share a lot of common viewpoints. We're not 100% in agreement with everything, but that's perfectly okay. It doesn't matter. I can get along with just about anybody, at least to an extent. I'll be honest about that. So, speaking of tech stuff in the news, if you're following any kind of tech at all, you're probably aware that the Mobile World Congress is coming up in Barcelona, Spain, on the 25th through the 28th of February, which is just around the corner. I would love to be able to go to these kind of tech shows. That would be awesome to be able to go to these. But of course, I've been to Spain before. Not a big fan. I'm an American, okay? Been around the world, seen all sorts of countries, and there's just nothing like the United States. But being in on some of these tech things would be pretty darn awesome. So Mobile World Congress has really turned out to be, over the years, a bigger and bigger event. Now, obviously, as the name suggests, it focuses on the mobile aspects. So you will see a lot of bleeding over from such things as the Consumer Electronics Show or even E3. A number of these other big conferences that go on, basically a show and tell. So Nokia, who I'm a big fan of because I have a Nokia Lumia 920 as well as the older 900 phone. I love those devices. You're going to get to see a little bit of its handiwork a little bit later in the podcast. But they've been coming out with devices left and right. They really are trying to hit on all cylinders to hit the market in places that the Android platform has really been successful in it. There's a reason why Android has got the biggest market share, because they've created a glut in the marketplace of devices that range from really, really awesome, well put together, hardy devices with the best performance that you can for an Android device, all the way down to the crappy junk, hardware that if you look at it wrong, it'll fall apart on you. But it gets people into the smartphone market that haven't been before. So Nokia has been actually creating, I think, better hardware to start even to hit those lower price points. But so anyway, originally Nokia was rumored to potentially be at least hinting or revealing the concept piece, or what's the word I'm looking for? It escapes me. I can't believe it. A reference device, a Windows 8 RT tablet. Now, that would mean that it would be like the Surface RT, the Microsoft Surface RT that was released, the first of Microsoft's tablet / hybrids. And then, of course, they just released last week the Surface Pro, which sold out immediately. Of course, they didn't really produce enough to handle the traffic, but there were people in lines trying to get those. And I'll be honest with you, that's where I'm going. The Surface RT doesn't interest me a bit. I want the Pro because it will run exactly what my laptop, as you if you look in the full shot, you can see the back of my laptop here. I want a tablet that can do almost all the things that my notebook can do. That's what I really want, because it'll be powerful enough to handle the portable aspects of my music studio, because I have software on here that programs my keyboards, my electronic keyboards that I use, as well as some of the other equipment that I use, does some recording, etc. So I really do have a mobile subset of my studio here. It's got a webcam built in. It's not HD, but I could actually do the podcast off of this laptop if I had to. So if we were in a mobile situation and had a decent network connection, I could do the podcast from there. That's what I love about this software. It would be definitely a low-grade version. It wouldn't be a HD because the hardware wouldn't be able to handle it. But the Surface Pro has an i5 processor on it. So that would actually be pretty... it would actually be a better processor than what I have in my main computer that I'm doing this podcast with. So the Surface Pro came out, and so far has gotten some pretty good reviews. Of course, the downside that we knew coming on, if you followed the podcast before, the downside we knew coming in was that it was going to have what I would phrase as abysmal battery life. And what I call abysmal is 4 to 5 hours. When you've got an iPad that will run 9, 10 if you really are conservative in your use of it, and you've got many laptops that will run 6 and even 7 hours, then you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot and have a tablet that will only do 4 or 5 hours. So that's been the one downside. But so far, the reviews, other than that aspect of the reviews on the Surface Pro have been pretty darn good. Now, having said that, there have been a few OEMs out there that produced a Surface RT or a Windows 8 RT tablet, but now it looks like Nokia is not going to reveal a Surface or a Windows 8 RT tablet at the Mobile World Congress. Looks like they're just going to focus on their phones. They're evidently going to have a couple or 3 new ones to reveal. a high end, at least a high end and another lower end one. And along with the other OEMs that are getting into the Windows 8 tablet arena, it looks like they're all kind of shifting gears and focusing on the Pro. Basically, I don't think anybody thinks that they can compete with the Surface RT, because it is a decent device. It's a hardy, it's a solidly built machine for an RT. Which means it's got some limited capability. It really is more in the class of the iPad as far as capability. Actually can do more because it does have Office built in. However, so the other OEMs are starting to see the real competition, the real chance to get market share is going to be in the Windows 8 Pro tablet, and I have to agree. That's what I'm holding out for. And if Nokia comes out with a pretty slamming Windows 8 Pro tablet that has the same features as the Surface Pro, but has much better battery life, I am so darn pleased with their. I'm so very, very happy, with their. Get to the right side of the camera here. Their units that they've been producing all across the board for Windows Phone 7 and Windows Phone 8. I just can't see not being excited over the tablet version of that. We'll just have to see what they come out with. But so that means it probably won't be until later of the year. I'll be surprised if we see something before the end of summer. More likely we'll see those come out around the holiday season, especially if they're shifting gears because they have to go with a whole different processor, etc. And again, I'm digging into the geek weeds for this, describing that. So I think for the Mobile World Congress, it looks like they're going to be focusing more on the phone side of it because, let's face it, right now Nokia has 74% of the Windows Phone market. That's huge because they're coming out with devices left and right that fit every budget area across the various carriers worldwide. However, having said that, they are starting to feel the challenge because with Windows Phone 8, more and more OEMs are getting into it. Now we're up to 12 different manufacturers who have or are about to release their Windows phones. Huawei, or however you pronounce it, has just released their one called Africa, which is obviously for Africa. But they have a number of other ones that are coming out that are various price points, and so they're getting. I mean, who expected them to come out with something? I mean, you've got, of course, HTC has got an excellent set on the line, and Samsung's always got their foot in it. You have LG, etc. You have Fujitsu that came out with, and there are more that are saying, you know, we're looking at getting into it. So that competition is starting to look more like the Android platform. So it's going to be interesting to see what different companies released. Samsung is more than likely going to release or reveal their bendable screen technology. Remains to be seen if they'll actually have a real phone that has that in it, because they kind of showed it off at the was it CES? I think it was CES. But interestingly, Nokia has basically said, you know what, we're going to stop using Samsung to do our components, because basically what they're suggesting is that they've been sending their ideas and designs to Samsung to actually execute, and then these designs, they'll say, oh, we can't fill the order, and then these designs end up showing up in some form in a Samsung device. And Apple just got done blaming them for the same thing, and so it looks like they may be dropping Samsung from doing their parts, etc. So it'll be interesting, because evidently Nokia suggested that the bendable screen design was originally theirs, and so it was kind of hawked by Samsung, which doesn't surprise me. if that's true, because they've never really done anything original. Every one of their Windows phones really has been a rebranded Android phone. So, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of there. And then in other related tech news, there's been some various discussion about this Windows Blue. So you might be asking what that is. Well, some people are saying, some people like Mary Jo Foley have suggested that originally it was supposed to be whatever the next version of Windows was going to be. They weren't sure if that was Windows 9 or if that was some big alteration of Windows 8. There's growing suggestion that Windows 8 will be for at least for the long term will be the version, and so you'll see just these big changes to it. And Blue is one of those big changes, but now we're finding out. It looks like Windows Blue is actually going to encompass the whole ecosystem. It's not going to be just the desktop tablet arena. It's also going to be for the phone. So what would that look like? Well, they're suggesting that for the Windows Phone, it's going to bring between the tablet arena and the phone arena, it's going to bring them more in parity. So there will be developer bits for the platform that will make it easier to write apps that are cross-platform. There'll be less cross-platform because the platforms will actually be coming closer together. So a lot less code that you have to change to make something written for Surface RT, for instance, will work on a Windows Phone 8 device. And then also it's reputed to be adding new versions of Internet Explorer, Calendar, Bing, Mail, and some other bits that will improve the battery life and the overall performance. So it seems like there's going to be a larger opening for developers to do more things with it, because obviously there's things that they have access to on the Windows desktop, the Windows Pro platform, that they don't have access to on the Windows Phone, and so they're probably chomping at the bit to see what they could do with that. So that's kind of cool. So in other news, sort of environment related, looks like 48 people, including actress Daryl Hannah, and I use the word actress extremely lightly, and notable Robert RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., working together with the Sierra Club, got into a little civil disobedience protest over the Keystone Pipeline. And I'm like, what is it with these people that are trying to stop capitalism, trying to stop progress? I mean, this is a pipeline that will allow oil that's in Canada to come down to our refineries down in Houston and other places. And it's not like it's we've got this pipeline thing down. And so it's amazing to me that the mental midgets on the left are getting so upset about a pipeline that is coming down from Canada. Here's the thing. They're complaining about, global warming, which I'm sorry. I'm a diver. I like to take care of the environment, but I'm not a tree hugger. I don't believe that we're supposed to be subjugated to the earth. I think we were put on this planet, and this is a resource for us. It's not going to last forever because we're not going to last forever. Now, does that mean we need to be irresponsible for it and just totally, muck it all up? No, of course not. It's not what I'm suggesting at all. But what I am saying is that we should be using the resources that were put here for us. And I do not believe that these companies for oil, gas, pipelines, etc., it's not in their best interest to do something so completely stupid that ruins their chances to continue making money off the resource. It just makes no sense by any stretch of the imagination. So they're not going to put, plastic PVC pipe down to pump oil. They're going to be very responsible about this because it's in their best interest economically, monetarily, to do so. And believe it or not, most of these companies have a very large contingent of very, very liberal people that work in those companies, that run aspects of those companies. So you're not going to see them without tremendous protest even from within, just being very cavalier in the way they put this stuff out, layout, pipeline, etc. So, and again, because it's already been shown that most of the science around global warming or climate change has been debunked as basically being propaganda. There is no consensus. I don't care what people try to say. The Earth is what it is. We exist on this planet. We will exist for a finite amount of time, as will the planet itself. And so to think that we are short of nuclear war, creating a nuclear winter, to think that we are so powerful that we're going to somehow alter the Earth dramatically, or that we could even fix it, is the height of stupidity, in my opinion. So anyway, you've got people like Daryl Hannah and RFK Jr. and a number of other people with more time on their hands and more money to waste than the rest of us slugs who work, are out there protesting, and this is evidently a first time that the Sierra Club, which I hate the Sierra Club, they're just a waste of anybody's effort. I guess the first time that they've actually taken the ban off of actually executing civil disobedience. So this was their first act of civil disobedience. So I'm happy to see them all arrested. You all need to spend some time cooling your heels and maybe think about how unintelligent you're being. Because ultimately, if you stop this pipeline, you're not stopping anything that's going to change the climate. Even if I were to acknowledge, if I were to agree that we were somehow responsible and that this oil was going to make this problem worse, which it's not. The bottom line is, if we don't use the oil, they're going to ship it off to other places. Because guess what? We're in competition for that resource, just like everybody else. So if we don't use it and to do things like provide jobs for the building of the pipeline and increased refinery production, as well as bring our prices down, because guess what? If we get it domestically, it's going to ultimately cost us less than if we were bringing it all from the Middle East, from people who hate us. So you're actually, in my book, you're actually contributing to a national security issue or problem by protesting this. So y'all need to sit down, shut up, and color, because you aren't thinking clearly. So somebody's going to use that oil. Canada's got it. They're going to sell it. And if we're able to pipe it down here and refine it, then so much the better. We keep it all in the family. Okay? So those silly people have been arrested, and I couldn't be happier. So the title of the episode this week was going, gone. And you might be asking, well, why is that? Well, it's been a number of weeks since I've been able to get out to the lake to do any diving, and I've been very disappointed at that. Seems like nobody that I can dive with has been available. So that's why I'm looking more and more into self-reliant scuba diving practices. I've been reading up a lot on that and made my shopping list of items that I will need in order to be able to do the self-reliant scuba diving, because I'm just tired of relying on other people who aren't available. So I went out to the lake, kind of on a twofold project, actually. the primary goal was to see how the lake was doing, because I've heard from a number of folks who are like fishermen who go out there and they said, hey, guess what? It's not looking so good. The lake's dropping at a dramatic rate. We get a lot of water going out to provide liquid refreshment, liquid nourishment to the farmers downstream. So I was curious to see how bad it really was, and I have got some pictures here. If I can bring them up. There we go. Okay, so this is taken where we pull, there's kind of a dirt road, if you will, that takes us to this, what we call the Scuba Cove, where we do all of our diving from, because it's protected. There's a buoy string that blocks, that notifies people that you can't bring powered boats in there, and there's no fishing allowed. You can see that little sign, brown sign to the left there on the screen, that shows that you're not supposed to be fishing here. And of course, what happened when I got there, I saw somebody fishing. I think I have a picture of that. So this is a pretty good walk down to the water, or at least it is on the best of cases. So I'm looking off to the left. And of course, what really caught my eye immediately was if you look off in the distance, the other shoreline, you see the green or brown part on top. And then you see the slanted, the shoreline, all of that grayish tan area is normally underwater. So you see little islands that normally are well underwater. Now, if you've seen other pictures that I've had up before, to the left of center of the screen, just to the left of the little cactus plant there, you see up in the distance the cliffs that normally kids are jumping off of. And usually the water line is, you see where the color change is from the darker to the lighter of the shoreline there by the cliffs. That's where normally the water is. Now you see a better view. Normally, when we dive over there, we're coasting around over that tongue that sticks out. We're coasting well over that. In fact, I would venture a guess that if I were to have walked, I was running out of daylight, so I had to get ready for the podcast. I would venture a guess that if I had gone ahead and walked around the cliff area there and gone around to the left of that tongue there, I would have seen some of the upper caves that we've actually looked at while diving, which is just disturbing. By the way, these pictures were taken courtesy of my Nokia Lumia 920 phone. And this doesn't even do it justice because I can only show it to you so large on the screen. It really is there at the high resolution and looked great on my computer screen when fully blown up. So here is the overlook platform that we stand on. Just your nice little vantage point, kind of a resting point if you've been climbing up the cove wall there. This is just dramatic, especially I should have put the picture up here. A couple of years ago, when one of the dams upstream of the Rio Grande broke, the lake level came up fast, really full, and as a matter of fact, it came up to just at the bottom of these steps here. So the lake was actually that full. The cliffs were gone. I mean, there were no cliffs. All that you see in the distance was covered up. It was amazing. So right here, if you look to the final landing of where the rails stop, that is where the water came up to. Now, if you look down in the distance, down there, just coming off of the dive or the swimming platform, you see a father and son who are just finishing up some fishing. And of course, I'm standing by the sign. It's to my immediate left here, where I'm taking the picture from. I politely asked them, do you realize that there's no fishing here? What? You realize there's no fishing here, right? Oh, no. I said, yeah, there's a sign. Really? Where's the sign? Right to my left. And, of course, they came up with some excuse, and they were like, well, we've got our permit. I said, it doesn't matter. There's no fishing right here. I said, this is a protected area for scuba diving and swimming. It just angers me when people clearly violate the rules. I mean, it was blatant. You can't miss this sign. It's right there. If you're standing where I'm standing, you cannot miss the sign that says no fishing. That's the only thing it says on it. It's no fishing. N-O-F-I-S-H-I-N-G. No fishing. But clearly, they can't read. So here's another shot as I'm starting to walk down as the father and son are starting to work their way up. Now, what really gets sad about this is you see this little ridge or ring, if you will, of dark area. That's actually that one, and the ring that's just a few feet below that's a little bit lighter. Those are the normal depths of the water. It will flex typically. In normal years, it will flex between those 2 points, depending on how they're letting water out of the dam for electrical, generation purposes as well as irrigation. So, for the water to be this far down is beyond dramatic, and also, as you can see, that's a long way to be carrying scuba gear. Another shot here. I was trying to get a clearer shot, bring up the exposure level a little bit. Now, as you can see, looking back to the other side, this orange thing you see out there, it's upside down. It's actually a marker buoy for the cove that has a sign on it that says no boats allowed, blah, blah, blah. And normally where that's at would actually have a lot more. It would look like it's further away from shore, but it's practically on shore at this point because the lake level is so far down. Again, you can see you can see where the normal ground is, the darker ring. The water's normally between that heavy dark ring where the ground above it is darker and starts to have the greenery, and then the lighter ring that's below it. That's where typically the water level is. Now, I was trying to get just a general shot down to give you an idea of the distance, and there's something partway down there that my diver friends might recognize, or they might not, but it kind of helps dramatize how dramatic the depth or the drop of the water level. You see here in the foreground the mooring bracket that the Park Service bolted into the rock, where for the longest time that dock you saw was actually moored here, and so the cabling that held it into place was attached at that point. So it wasn't very far off the edge of the walkway. Now I'm getting a little closer to an item that my diver friends should recognize. If you look just uphill from the red cone, you might recognize it. And here was a lower mooring bracket that they had bolted in, which is also now vacant because the water level has continued to drop. This is the thing that I was hoping my diver friends would recognize. This is what we call the dive chest. This has, under normal circumstances, is at 30 to 35 feet of water. And because it's concrete, doesn't move, and so it's perfect for mooring a line for doing the controlled emergency swimming ascent exercise. It's perfect for that. And here it is, well out of the water. It's just so anybody who's not a diver and who's wondered what we've talked about when we're talking about the dive chest, this is what we're talking about. So this is a shot looking across the top of the dive chest at still more distance before you get to the dock. Now, this is looking up from that same place, close to the dock. This is looking up at, there's two bush areas here. There's a darker one on the left, and there's a lighter one on the right. If you have watched a couple of previous episodes, we had, I had some video up of it was the final dive that I had with one of my students where it was very unusual. We actually just rested on the bottom between these two bushes and videotaped a bunch, I mean a ridiculous number of carp and tilapia that were just swimming around us. I mean, it was like they were checking us out. I mean, they just hung there. Normally you would see one or two that would go by, and they see you and they're gone. But these all hung around. It was amazing. It was great video footage. But this is where we were. We were laying down between these two bushes. And it just floored me to see it like this. Okay, of course, standing on the dock and looking up at both the cone, and you can see just slightly off the left of center, you can see the dive chest. And then all the way up there, you see the walkway, the overlook platform where the cars are all parked. And this is looking out. I'm standing on the actual dock looking across it. It's very calm. Of course, it normally is as the sun is setting. And just how dramatic the level is here. You know, we don't have the cliffs anymore, I mean, because it's just big shoreline. Now, for those of you who might be people, the type who would dive off of those cliffs or jump off of those cliffs, and or have friends or relatives who do that, let this be just a little bit of a lesson to you as to how dangerous it is. You think you're jumping off into a straight drop off, and it's not. It's actually quite sloping. And so people have died. I had a neighbor who died, broke his neck, jumping off of the cliffs, and he broke his neck because he jumped down too far and actually smacked his head and broke his neck on the rocks below. So let this be a lesson to you that you can hurt yourself dramatically and even fatally by jumping off these cliffs. And here's another shot, just looking out at just how all these islands that have popped up that are normally well underwater. Okay, so I was walking along. Let me back up a few so you can see where this is. There we go. If you look off to the left here of the cove, you see this white buoy. This buoy is actually attached. As the lake started to drop, I had to detach it from the dive chest because it was no longer deep enough to be used for the controlled emergency swimming ascent, and we had to do it off of the small. There's two sunken boats out here. Had to do it off the small sunken boat. Well, now you can see how shallow it is. So let me move fast forward. So I walked around to that. That is, ladies and gentlemen, the small sunken boat. Normally I take students out. Under normal circumstances, this boat is in 40 to 50 feet of water. So when I take students out on their last dive, as just they finished all their actual skill requirements, and now it's just going out and doing some exploring. I normally take them out here to take a look at this so they can kind of, oh, well, that's kind of cool. Because it's shallow enough because they can't go below 60, so this is a good spot to take them. And they get to see something other than just moon surface underneath there. And here's another shot of it. So this is the sunken boat, and you can see it's basically at the surface now, which is just, it's ridiculous that the lake level's down. So here's the buoy and the boat. And visibility didn't look too hateful. It's probably about 10 or 15 feet. And then looking out over a ridge, there is the marker that we put for the big boat. The larger boat is normally at about, it's at a heavy slant. It slopes a lot right there. It is normally at 60 to 80 feet because of the slope. So give or take 10 feet, depending on the lake levels. So that's where, so I'm betting now that it's probably about 20 feet of water. So it'd be, I'd have to move the buoy over there to do the controlled emergency swimming ascent. And that takes us back to the beginning. So it's pretty dramatic to see the lake levels this far down. It's kind of scary as a diver, and certainly looking forward to the new year. Of course, you know, I do have dive classes scheduled for this year. It's going to be challenging to pull them off if the lake continues to drop like that, because as you can see, you need to be in really good shape in order to lug gear up and down that big a distance. I tell you, if you aren't in shape just going into the classes, you either will drop out or you will be in better shape by the time you get done, because that's going to be a lot of exercise to knock those out. So I also have just a little bit of video that I took. There we go. A little audio. This is Lake Amistad on the 16th of February, 2013. Yep. As you can see, the lake levels, if you are used to this area, are horrifically low. There are the cliffs that we see a lot of kids stupidly jumping from. The most obvious protrusion there is about as low as we normally see where people are jumping off of. And I rarely have ever seen it lower than the beginning of that slope there. Here you can see the white bottle marking the larger of the two sunken boats out here. I'd imagine at this point it's probably in about 20 feet of water. Normally we'd be taking students along this area. This is taken, of course, with my Lumia 920, the video quality HD, full HD on this phone. Now it's got the image stable. The light came down pretty fast because it's still
This is funny.
and the ground is soggy. As you can see, I just about fell. Now the image stabilization on this camera is really good. So long. Any other camera trying to video and any other phone trying to do this, it would be all shaky and well, there obviously is movement because I'm walking on very uneven ground, but it's the image stabilization really makes this a good video. Normally when we're doing our little nav practice, going from where the dock used to be to the small boat to the large boat and back, normally that's where the small boat is, where you see that marker. We'd cruise literally straight up over this ridge at a 278-degree heading and go right to the big boat. Normally, the small boat is at about 40 feet to 50 feet. The larger boat is around 60 to 80 feet. Not anymore. And the audio, the microphone's got dual microphones on it. It really does a great job audio-wise. See the small boat there. This is just incredible. And there's the small boat. It's literally right at the shore. Amazing. Needless to say, this will make having classes this year a tremendous challenge. Yeah. Because as you're about to see, the trek up and down the cove here with gear is going to challenge anybody who is not in decent shape. It's just incredible. I just really like the camera on this phone. Here's how sickening this really is. Nearly fell again. That is the sunken dive chest. No longer. Normally sits at around 30 to 35 feet. No longer sunken. Well, it's sunk in the ground. It makes a perfect anchor for your line for doing the controlled emergency swimming ascent exercise. As you can see, it's well above the waterline now. Now we begin the long trek up the hill. I was trying to be very, very ginger about stepping on, because a lot of this has been underwater, so you don't know what's secured and what's not. You know, it's been sitting on soft ground. You know, a lot of these rocks are piled up on soft ground, and so you could step on this, step on an area and find it's all collapsing underneath you, or squishy, or otherwise start to slide. Just a couple of years ago, due to a broken dam upstream, the water level used to be up to the platform up here. Yep. And then when they let a lot of the water out, it actually just kind of hung for several months at the bottom of the cement walkway, which really made it convenient because basically you just walked off the walkway onto that metal transom to the dive platform of the dock, and away you go. You're made for a very nice entry and exit. Great video. Love it. What a shot. What a shot. So there you see how really bad things have gotten in at Lake Amistad right now. And it's kind of depressing. But, it, you know, unfortunately, Lake Amistad is actually a flood control reservoir. It's not... Its primary purpose is not actually for recreational use. It just happens to have that additional use that obviously benefits the economy, etc. So, you know, all the complaining about the fact that that the lake is so low, it's kind of falling on deaf ears because it's water. You know, it's managed by the Water Boundary Commission in conjunction with the country of Mexico. Which I'm going to do my plug to slam the country of Mexico. They've got so many problems as a nation. I'm sorry. I don't share an affinity for the country. I know a lot of people around here have family there, and they enjoy that country. I don't. There's just no. They're very backward. They're very poorly run, and it's just one aspect of that is the fact that the way that they operate their share, if you will, of the water boundary system. You know, they don't secure their borders, and so we're insecure. And then also they share half the responsibility of managing dams, etc. So there's a certain amount of water that's supposed to come through the system, you know, from all the way down through the Rio Grande. And so we have, for the most part, we have stuck by the agreement of letting water out, but they have not. They technically, on paper, they owe us a lot of water feeding downstream. So, you know, while we've been on the up and up, they have not. And so that's part of the reason why our lake levels are down so low. We've been feeding downstream for the irrigation farmers, but they've not been releasing what they're supposed to release to us. So that's part of the reason that the lake levels are so dramatically low. It's a shame. It really is. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to keep the classes scheduled as they are, but just with the caveat, we may end up canceling some or I don't know, trying to figure out an alternate location. It's just really convenient to have it right here at Lake Amistad. So those who do classes here with me may find it very challenging to get down to the water. I may have to look at some other areas that may be a little bit easier to access. But the beauty of this Scuba Cove is that it is protected. Even as low as it is protected. So I don't have to worry about boats coming in. I don't have to set marker buoys out because, quite frankly, there at Lake Amistad there's no captain's license. You're not required to get any kind of certification to actually operate a boat. All you have to do is pay your little permit so you can actually have a boat on the water. But there is no captain's classes or watermanship or whatever required. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen idiots come pulling into that cove, even though the markers are there that clearly indicate you're not supposed to. But they don't even know what the buoys mean. They don't know, they don't care because it's all about them. You know, they don't practice any kind of safety or consideration at all. So even if you put dive flags out, there's no guarantee that these hanyaks out here with their boats are not going to run over you. That's the thing I'm afraid of. But your safest bet is at the Scuba Cove because they're more likely to be aware they shouldn't be in there. And as any of my students know, I will chase you out. If you come into that cove with a powered boat, I will stop the class and I will descend upon you like a bald eagle. So that's how bad it's getting at Lake Amistad, folks. So if you are from out of town looking to dive here, you might want to do it sooner rather than later, because there's no telling how much lower it's going to go unless we get some serious rain. Not even here. You know, people say, oh, we need some more rain here so we can get the lake up. This isn't where we need it for the lake to come up. We need it actually up to the north and to the west of us, where it feeds all the tributaries, because Lake Amistad is filled by the Devil's River, the Pecos River, and, of course, the Rio Grande. So if we don't get rains that feed into those, then we're not going to get it into the aquifer, and we're not going to get it into the rivers that actually feed the lake. So be praying for rain to the west and the north of us so we can get the lake levels back up. I don't want another hurricane to come up and slam us like it did back in 1998. That was pretty bad. But it did bring the lake level way up because it was really low before that too. So, quick reminder before we finish up here. Again, here it's just me, and I'm already 22 minutes overtime, which really translates to about 15 minutes overtime because I got the podcast started late because I was having some technical difficulties. Last week we shared with you about the Tons of Steel dive trip or dive opportunity, dive excursion by American Diving. They've got a special for June 1st. It's a 3-tank. The Tons of Steel is a 3-tank dive that includes breakfast, lunch, because you have to start really early. So if you're not local to that area, you'd have to basically drive down there and stay the night, and then so you're hitting the dock at what 7 o'clock, something like that, because it's a little bit of a boat ride. But anyway, $199. It's normally $250, I think, or $275. $199 for 3 tanks, and you get breakfast and lunch and beverages. Now, I got this because I'm on their mailing list, and so I get their little newsletters. So what they've basically said is if you call them at 956-761-2030, that's 956-761-2030, and let them know that you found out about this special deal via their newsletter, then you can get in on that while supplies last. Again, $199 for 3-tank dive. That's pretty awesome. So basically, you bring your own gear, but they'll provide the tanks and the weights. So all you have to do is bring your BC, your regulator, your snorkel, fins, mask, and your wetsuit to get out there. So June 1st, awesome opportunity. So really miss ScubaBob, a.k.a. Robert Garza, a.k.a. Bobby Flamingo, this week. But again, wish him well for his preparation for a big spiritual jump in his life, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and hit some of the administrivia before we sail on out of here. Dun, dun, dun. We're coming up on the next Del Rio Dive Club meeting on the 21st of February at Rudy's Restaurant at 7 p.m. We'd love to see you there, just to get to know you, maybe get you hooked into our diving network, or get you involved in diving if you've never been diving before. Then we also have our Balmorhea State Park dive trips. These are always a blast. You cannot help but have fun there, because you get the best of all worlds. You get a nice scenic view, mountain view, well, as much as you can have mountains in Texas, and nice picnicking and camping areas, as well as cabins, and then, of course, a nice, very safe, secure diving opportunity in spring-fed waters that are normally between 74 and 76 degrees year-round. So those trips for this year are scheduled for the 17th to the 19th of May, the 14th through the 16th of June, then July 19th through the 21st, and then, of course, our anniversary. My producer, Tara, and our anniversary is on the 18th, so you can come celebrate our anniversary with us on August 16th through the 18th. And then, of course, still tentative, depending on what the water levels are doing. Got basic open water classes available 23rd through the 26th of May, 27th through the 30th of June, 25th through the 28th of July, 22nd through the 25th of August, and finally the 26th through the 29th of September. Now, you can always reach us, visit us at our website, delriodiveclub.com, or even better, jump on to our Facebook page, /Del Rio Dive Club. And once we get the Skype issue with XSplit working, you'll be able to Skype with us via Two Guys Who Dive. Or you can always send us an email at tgwd@outlook.com. Love to hear from you. And, of course, you can always contact me through my email at robert.wade@setifox.net, or follow me on Twitter at robertcfp. I'll warn you, I'm a political activist, so if you're going to follow me on Twitter, be prepared to be assailed with some good conservative common sense that way. We hopefully will have everything back in order with Bobby Flamingo joining us again for another exciting episode next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, Saturday at 8 o'clock. So join us next week for another exciting episode of Two Guys Who Dive.